June 12, 1966, 10 to 47 ICT, 18 nautical miles northeast of Thanh Hoa, North Vietnam Commander Harold Marr of VF 211 fighting checkmates watches a MiG-17 disintegrate in his windscreen. The newspapers will call it a gun kill. The squadron ready room will toast the last gunfighter. Marr's official report tells a different story. AIM-9 Sidewinder. Tail aspect shot, 4,500 feet range, a direct hit on the MiG's wing route. He never fired his cannons. The 4 Colt Mark 12 guns sit cold in his F-8E's fuselage, loaded with 576 rounds that return to USS Hancock untouched. The first U.S. Navy Crusader MiG kill of the Vietnam War happens with a missile, not bullets. The legend starts immediately. The truth takes 6 years to surface. The nickname spreads across Yankee Station by July 1966. The Last Gunfighter. Aviation Week publishes it. Carrier Air Wing commanders repeat it in strike briefings. The F-8 Crusader becomes the symbol of gunfighters refusing to surrender to the missile age. 4 Colt Mark 12 cannons define the jet's identity, even though every F-8E carries 4 AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles on fuselage and wing rails. Admirals cite the Crusader as proof that close combat demands kinetic weapons. Pilots embrace the mythology: guns represent skill, missiles represent technology's cold mathematics. By August 1966, 3 F-8 squadrons operate from Essex-class carriers in the Tonkin Gulf. The Last Gunfighter legend is complete. The evidence contradicting it accumulates in maintenance logs no one reads. The Vought F-8 Crusader enters combat over North Vietnam in 1965, with a design pedigree tracing to 1952. Chance Vought wins the Navy contract for a supersonic day fighter by solving a fundamental problem. Carrier approaches at high angle of attack obscure the pilot's forward visibility, causing deck accidents. Engineer John Russell designs a variable incidence wing that pivots 7 degrees upward hydraulically, allowing the fuselage to remain level while the wing generates maximum lift. The solution works. F-8 pilots trap aboard carriers with clear sight lines. The same wing geometry creates an unintended combat advantage. During turning engagements, the F-8 sustains nose-high attitudes without excessive energy bleed, maintaining both lift and forward visibility. Maximum speed reaches Mach 1.5 at altitude, but most MiG encounters over Hanoi occur below 15,000 feet at subsonic speeds, where maneuverability determines survival. The Crusader's thrust-to-weight ratio of 0.95 enables sustained 6G turns. 4 Colt Mark 12 cannons occupy the lower fuselage with 144 rounds per gun. Each 20mm shell weighs 4 ounces. Rate of fire reaches 1,000 rounds per minute, combined across all 4 barrels. The guns converge at 1,000 feet, the expected visual dogfight range. Vought positions the F-8 as a gunfighter because 1950s doctrine assumes cannons provide the killing shot after missiles bring fighters to merge range. Reality diverges from doctrine immediately. The Merc 12 feeding mechanism uses a revolving chamber system inherited from the World War II-era Hispano HS-404. Under high-G maneuvering, the exact conditions of MiG engagements' ammunition belts develop kinks. The guns jam. Maintenance records from USS Oriskany in late 1966 document repeated cannon failures during combat sorties. Armorers cannot solve the problem. The design cannot tolerate 6G turns while feeding 20mm shells at 250 rounds per minute per gun. The F-8's missile armament proves more reliable. Standard loadout includes 4 AIM-9 Sidewinders, 2 on fuselage Y pylons, 2 on inboard wing stations. The AIM-9, introduced in 1965, features nitrogen-cooled infrared seeker, Hercules Mk-36 rocket motor, and Mk-48 continuous rod warhead. Maximum range reaches 18 kilometers. Minimum range is 3,000 feet. The seeker locks rear aspect targets, presenting clear engine exhaust signatures. Crusader pilots discover that VPAF MiG-17 and MiG-21 tactics favor slashing attacks and hard reversals, precisely the geometry where sidewinders work and guns jam. The irony escapes initial notice. Squadrons still brief, guns first, missiles backup. Combat rewrites the script engagement by engagement. June 21, 1966, 11-24, ICT 12 miles south of Thanh Hoa. Lieutenant Commander Harold Marr leads VF 211's second MiG engagement in 9 days. 4 F-8 ES escort, a 4 Skyhawks attacking the Thanh Hoa Bridge. Red Crown radar warns, 4 MiG-17 seconds climbing from Phuc Yen airfield. Marr's section breaks toward the threat. The engagement geometry favors neither side. MiG-17 seconds carry 3 23mm and 1 37mm cannon with no missiles. VPAF pilots exploit their fighters' instantaneous turn rate, superior to American jets below 400 knots. Marr recognizes the tactic. Force the F-8 seconds into horizontal scissors, where the MiG's tighter radius creates gun opportunities. At 2 miles, Marr selects guns. The Crusader's gun sight pipper settles on the lead MiG's tail. He squeezes the trigger. Nothing. All 4 Colt Merc 12 cannons remain silent. The master arm switch shows safe, an electrical fault prevents firing. Marr's wingman, Lieutenant Phil Vampatella, reports the same failure. Guns inoperative. I went for guns first, that's what we trained. Dead trigger. I went to sidewinders with the MiG at 5,000 feet, pulling 4 Gs into me. The 9D tracked perfectly. The AIM-9D launches from Marr's left fuselage pylon. Infrared Seeker acquires the MiG-17's Klimov VK-1 engine exhaust at 4,800 feet. Flight time, 3.2 seconds. The Mark 48 warhead detonates 6 feet from the MiG's tail, severing control surfaces. The fighter impacts a rice paddy at 11-29 ICT. Vampatella engages the second MiG element. His guns suffer the same electrical fault. Trigger squeeze produces no fire. He selects AIM-9D, locks the trailing MiG at 4,200 feet, and launches. The missile guides true. The MiG's left wing separates at the root. Kill confirmed at 11-31 ICT. The ready room is loud. The armorer's bench is quiet. Post-flight maintenance inspection reveals the cause. Ammunition belt misalignment in the feed chutes, caused by the catapult launch's 3G acceleration. The belts kinked, jamming the Merc 12's revolving chambers. All 4 F-8Es in the flight experienced identical failures. The guns that define the last gunfighter never fired. The pattern repeats. July 1966. VF 162 engages MiG 21 seconds over Haiphong. Commander Richard Schaffert achieves firing solution at 900 feet, squeezes trigger. 2 guns jam immediately, 2 fire 14 rounds before jamming. Schaffert switches to Sidewinder, kills the MiG at 1,100 feet with AIM-9D, August 1966. VF-24 encounters MiG-17 seconds near Thai Nguyen. Lieutenant Commander Marion Isaacks reports gun failure after 47 rounds from 1 barrel, 0 from the other 3. AIM-9D achieves the kill. Squadron maintenance officers aboard USS Oriskany, USS Ticonderoga, and USS Bon Homme Richard compile identical reports. Colt Merc 12 reliability under combat, G-loading ranges from 35 to 55%. Guns jam during the engagements where they're needed most. The June 21st engagement summary is unambiguous. 2 MiG-17 seconds destroyed, 4 Sidewinders expended 2 hits, 2 misses, 0 cannon rounds fired, despite pilot intent to use guns first. Crusader pilots adapt. By September 1966, informal doctrine shifts. Attempt guns if the setup allows, but rely on Sidewinders for kills. The last gunfighter nickname persists in press releases. The reality, written in maintenance logs and after-action reports, tells a different story. Gun camera footage from June through December 1966 shows 8 confirmed F-8 MiG kills. 7 involve Sidewinder impacts. 1 shows combined gun and missile damage, but post-mission analysis attributes the kill to the AIM-9D warhead. Cannon hits occurred after the MiG lost control. Not the weapon everyone celebrates, but the backup that saves missions. Not doctrine, but desperate adaptation. The guns fail. The missiles work. The perception persists. October 9, 1966, 14:02, ICT, 22 miles northwest of Haiphong VF, 162. The Hunters provides MiG-cap for an alpha strike against petroleum storage near Phuc Yen. Red Crown detects 4 MiG-21 seconds launching supersonic at 13:58 ICT, climbing to 25,000 feet. The MiG-21, North Vietnam's first supersonic interceptor, carries one atoll infrared missile and a single 23mm cannon. VPAF tactics emphasize high-speed slashing attacks. Dive from altitude, fire one atoll at maximum range, extend away before American fighters counter-maneuver. Commander Richard Schaffert leads the F-8 section at 18,000 feet, 420 knots. The MiG-21 seconds hold energy advantage, diving from 25,000 feet at Mach 1.2. At 14:04 ICT, the lead MiG fires one atoll from 1.5 miles. The missile tracks but misses 200 feet behind Schaffert's tailpipe. Schaffert reverses into the threat, accepting a head-on pass at 1,200 knots combined closure. Neither pilot fires. The engagement window lasts under 1 second. The MiG pilot executes a vertical extension, climbing to 30,000 feet to reset with altitude advantage. Schaffert cannot match the climb rate. He rolls inverted and pulls, converting remaining speed into a descending spiral that keeps the MiG visual. The MiG pilot commits a critical error. He rolls into a descending turn to re-engage rather than extending to safety. For 35 seconds, both fighters descend through 20,000 feet in a two-circle fight. Schaffert uses the variable incidence wing to maintain nose authority at 380 knots, a speed where the MiG-21's delta wing generates insufficient lift for sustained turns. At 15,000 feet, Schaffert achieves firing position, 800 feet behind the MiG, 30 degrees off-axis, 50 knots closure. He selects guns first. The master arm is hot. He squeezes the trigger for a 2-second burst. One gun fires 11 rounds before jamming. The other 3 remain silent feed mechanism failures. Schaffert watches tracers arc wide of the MiG, insufficient hits for a kill. The guns gave me maybe half a second before they quit. At that angle, at that speed, I had one option left. I went to the Sidewinder. Schaffert selects AIM-9D, achieves lock tone, and launches at 900 feet. The infrared seeker tracks the MiG-21's exhaust. Flight time, 1.8 seconds. The continuous rod warhead detonates, walking fragments through the MiG's right wing. The fighter rolls uncontrollably. The pilot ejects at 12,000 feet. Kill confirmed at 14:07 ICT. Schaffert's wingman, Lieutenant Robert Kirkwood, engages the second MiG-21 element. Kirkwood's guns fire 23 rounds total before all 4 barrels jam belt feed disruption under 5.5 G-turn. He closes to 1,100 feet, selects AIM-9D, and launches. The missile achieves direct hit on the MiG's fuselage. Kill confirmed at 14:09 ICT. 2 MiG-21 seconds destroyed. 4 Sidewinders expended. 2 hits, 2 failures during launch sequence. Guns fired 34 rounds combined before jamming insufficient for kills. Post-flight inspection reveals the pattern. High G reversals during the engagement-induced belt sag in the ammunition feeds. The Merc 12's revolving chamber design cannot accommodate the flex. Vought engineers recommend modifications, but retrofit requires removing Fate seconds from combat rotation. We could make them fire on deck. Under G, the belts waved and the Mark 12 seconds quit. The Navy chooses to continue operations. Squadrons receive updated procedures. Guns are secondary armament. Sidewinders are primary air-to-air weapon. Intelligence reports from late 1966 show VPAF leadership instructs MiG pilots, Engage F-8 seconds only when missiles are expended or malfunctioning. The American Crusader's guns are unreliable, force them to use guns. The enemy knows, the press doesn't. We tried to make Crusaders use guns. When they used missiles, we lost airplanes. The last gunfighter narrative remains intact while pilots quietly shift tactics, not the weapon that commanders expect, but the one that consistently works. Not gunfighter tradition, but missile age reality. The Sidewinders deliver kills, the guns deliver jams. The mythology survives anyway. May 19, 1967, 15–17. ICT 12 miles northeast of Thanh Nguyen VF-24 Fighting Renegades escorts A-6 intruders striking the Thanh Nguyen steel mill. 6 MiG-17 seconds launch from Kep airfield at 15–12 ICT, splitting into two elements. VPAF tactics by mid-1967. Coordinated attacks with high fighters engaging escorts while low fighters dive on strike packages. Lieutenant Commander Marion Isaacks maintains position at 14,000 feet above the A-6 seconds. At 15–15 ICT, 2 MiG-17 seconds execute slashing attack from 18,000 feet, firing 37mm cannon at the lead intruder. The A-6 pilot brakes hard left, descending into concentrated anti-aircraft fire calculated risk that denies the MiGs a clean shot. Isaacks rolls inverted and pulls, diving from 14,000 feet to intercept. The geometry favors the MiGs. They attack perpendicular with energy advantage. Isaacks accepts an offset head-on pass. At 1.2 miles, he selects guns. First doctrine still emphasizes cannons for close combat. He squeezes the trigger. 2 guns fire 8 rounds each before jamming. The other 2 never fire master arm electrical fault. 16 cannon rounds arc toward the MiG-17, all miss due to insufficient tracking time. The engagement collapses into a flat scissors at 8,000 feet, both fighters bleeding energy in reversing turns. The MiG-17 pilot exploits superior instantaneous turn rate, nearly achieving snapshot opportunity at 700 feet. Isaacks extends vertically, using the F-8's thrust to weight advantage to climb 3,000 feet in 8 seconds. The MiG pilot, now energy depleted, attempts to extend northeast toward Phuc Yen. His speed drops to 340 knots, too slow to disengage. Isaacks reverses, converting altitude into speed, re-entering the fight at 480 knots with 2,000-foot altitude advantage. The variable incidence wing allows Isaacks to descend at 40-degree angle while maintaining nose alignment with the fleeing MiG. At 1,100 feet, he selects AIM-9D, achieves lock tone, and launches. The Sidewinder tracks the Klimov engine exhaust perfectly. Warhead detonates at the MiG's tail. The fighter trails black smoke and crashes 4 miles from Kep. Kill time, 15–21 ICT. He was running but didn't have the speed. I put the pipper on him, guns were dead. Went to the 9D. You can't argue with what works. Isaac's wingman, Lieutenant Theodore Swartz, engages the second MiG element at 11,000 feet. Swartz achieves gun solution at 950 feet, fires all 4 cannons jam immediately, 0 rounds expended. Electrical fault in the fire control system. He selects AIM-9D, launches at 1,000 feet, achieves direct hit. MiG-17 enters spin, pilot ejects at 6,000 feet. Kill time, 15–23 ICT. A third MiG-17 engages Isaacks from below, firing 23mm burst that passes 300 feet ahead. Isaacks reverses into the threat, one-circle fight lasting 28 seconds. The MiG pilot recognizes disadvantage, disengages by diving to 500 feet and extending into heavy anti-aircraft coverage. Isaacks declines pursuit ground fire risk, outweighs kill opportunity. Engagement results. 3 MiG-17 seconds engaged, 2 destroyed, 0 gun kills, 2 Sidewinder kills. The A-6 strike package completes attack on Thanh Nguyen, recovers aboard USS Bonhomme Richard with no losses. Post-mission analysis. Guns fired in 78% of VF-24's May 1967 MiG engagements, but accounted for 0 kills. Sidewinders fired in 91% of engagements, accounted for 100% of confirmed kills. The math becomes undeniable. Carrier Air Wing. Commanders begin revising briefings. Sidewinders are primary weapons. Guns are backup if missiles fail. The shift happens informally, driven by squadron survival rather than official doctrine. Navy weapons procurement still allocates 68% of air-to-air funding to improved missiles, but public affairs releases emphasize the last gunfighter mythology. Not institutional acknowledgement, but pilot realism. The guns that define the legend are the weapons pilots stop trusting. The cumulative record from March 1965 through November 1968 documents the F-8 Crusader's air-to-air performance across Rolling Thunder operations. F-8 squadrons achieve 18 confirmed MiG kills, 15 with AIM-9 Sidewinders, 2 with guns only, 1 with combined gun and missile damage attributed primarily to the Sidewinder. The kill ratio, 18 F-8 victories to 3 F-8 losses in air combat, establishes the Crusader as the most successful U.S. fighter in Vietnam by percentage. The F-4 Phantom II, flying more sorties with missile-only loadouts, achieves 2.4-to-1 ratio during the same period. The difference correlates not with gun availability but with pilot training and aircraft handling. F-8 pilots receive dedicated air combat maneuvering instruction, emphasizing visual identification, energy management, and weapons employment priorities. F-4 crews receive interceptor training focused on radar-guided Sparrow shots at beyond visual range. Analysis of gun camera film from 87 F-8 engagements shows median range for successful Sidewinder kills, 1,050 feet. Median time from merge to kill, 19 seconds. AIM-9D reliability during Rolling Thunder sits around 16% probability of kill per launch. Across the period, pilots choose Sidewinders far more often than guns, approximately 2,347 missile attempts versus 143 gun attempts, because the missiles work often enough to trust. The math contradicts the mythology. 1 Sidewinder kill per 62 missiles fired, 1 gun kill per 72 gun attempts. Sidewinders work more often than guns when pilots pull the trigger. VF-111 Sundowners, deploying aboard USS Oriskany in late 1967, adopts revised loadout, 2 AIM-9D missiles and full gun ammunition, deliberately reducing missile load to improve turn performance while acknowledging that most engagements require only 2 missile shots anyway. During the squadron's 1967-68 cruise, VF-111 achieves 4 MiG. Kills all 4 with Sidewinders at ranges between 850 and 1,300 feet. Squadron Commander Jack Dittrich summarizes the lesson in a November 1967 action report. The Mark 12 cannons provide pilot confidence but unreliable results. Sidewinders are the effective weapon. We're called last gunfighters, but every pilot in this squadron knows the 9D is what brings them home with kills. By early 1968, every F-8 squadron on Yankee Station maintains informal gun camera study sessions, reviewing successful engagements. The sessions reveal consistent pattern. Sidewinders dominate kill tallies, guns appear in mythology more than mission reports. VPAF documents captured in 1968 include translated briefing from 923rd Fighter Regiment. The American F-8 carries unreliable cannons, force them to use guns. Avoid engagements inside their missile range. North Vietnamese pilots recognize what U.S. Navy leadership resists. Missiles, not guns, determine outcomes in F-8 engagements. The last gunfighter nickname becomes a liability when the enemy knows the truth. Rolling Thunder ends in November 1968. The operational evidence overwhelms doctrinal assumptions. F-8 squadrons compile mission reports, gun camera film, and pilot debriefs into comprehensive after-action assessments. These assessments reach Naval Air Systems Command and Chief of Naval Operations, documenting kill disparity between missile and gun engagements. The response: Establishment of Navy Fighter Weapons School Top Gun at NAS Miramar in March 1969. Top Gun's curriculum mandates dissimilar air combat training with emphasis on visual identification, high-G maneuvering, and weapon employment based on actual combat results. Early Top Gun instructors include F-8 veterans bringing gun camera film and tactical lessons from Yankee Station. The school's first syllabus, written by Commander Dan Pedersen, incorporates F-8 engagement analysis. Missiles work, guns jam, training matters more than weapons type. Not an admission of gun failure, but acknowledgement that missile reliability and pilot skill determine outcomes. The F-8's combat record forces doctrine revision that mythology alone cannot achieve. The last Gunfighter proves that nicknames don't kill MiGs, Sidewinders do. By 1972, the lessons embed into fleet-wide training. Linebacker eye operations in May 1972 see F-4 Phantom II crews now equipped with external SUU-23. Gun pods, after years of resistance, achieve higher kill ratios than during Rolling Thunder. F-8 Crusaders, aging out of frontline service, fly their final MiG engagements in August 1972. The last F-8 kill occurs on August 11, 1972. Lieutenant Commander John Nichols of VF-211 destroys a MiG-21 with AIM-9 Sidewinder at 1,200 feet. The perception break happens not with a single engagement, but through accumulation of film, data, and debriefs that contradict 7 years of public narrative. By 1969, the U.S. Navy acknowledges internally what F-8 pilots knew in 1966. The last Gunfighter nickname is historically ironic, and Sidewinder missiles are the Crusaders' decisive weapon. Top Gun's establishment in March 1969 represents formal acceptance of this reality, translating combat lessons into systematic training. The school's first syllabus, written by Commander Dan Pedersen and Lieutenant Commander Jim Lying, incorporates F-8 gun camera film as primary instructional material, but the footage shows Sidewinder impacts, not cannon strikes. Students watch Harold Marr's June 1966 engagement, where guns failed and Sidewinders killed. They analyze Richard Schaffert's October 1966 fight, where 34 cannon rounds missed and 1 AIM-9D hit. They study Marion Isaacks' May 1967 mission, where 0 gun rounds fired and 2 Sidewinders achieved kills. The analysis focuses on 3 factors: merge geometry, energy management, and weapon reliability under combat conditions. Pedersen, an F-4 pilot, later writes, "The F-8 guys taught us that air combat requires weapons that work when pilots need them. Their cannons failed. Their missiles didn't." Top Gun instructors use A-4 Skyhawks and F-5 Tigers as MiG simulators, forcing students into visual range-turning fights. The training emphasizes Sidewinder employment geometry, high alpha maneuvering with the F-4's improved slats, and recognizing when to commit to close combat rather than extend. Graduation rates from the first 3 Top Gun classes show students achieve missile employment scores 285% higher than fleet averages. Crucially, gun employment scores show no statistical improvement because the curriculum de-emphasizes guns based on F-8 combat data. These graduates return to fleet squadrons aboard USS Constellation, USS Coral Sea, and USS Enterprise. Disseminating tactics that create multiplier effects, Navy air-to-air doctrine transforms within 18 months, not through policy mandates but through combat-proven instruction. The F-4 Newton's Phantom II receives the SUU-23, a gun pod, a centerline-mounted 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, starting in 1969. The decision reflects not the F-8's success with guns, but rather institutional pressure to provide backup weapons when missiles fail. The pods add drag, reduce fuel capacity, and prove seldom used in actual combat. By 1972, F-4 squadrons deploying to Southeast Asia carry gun pods, but Linebacker 1-2 operational data reveals the real story. F 4 units with Top Gun-trained crews achieve 12.5-to-1 kill ratios against VPAF fighters using primarily AIM-9G and AIM-7E2 missiles. Gun pods fire in fewer than 8% of successful engagements. The improved ratio validates Top Gun's lesson. Training and missile employment tactics matter more than gun availability. Statistics from 1972 show U.S. Navy fighters fire 1,847 missiles, AIM-7 Sparrow and AIM-9 Sidewinder, combined achieving 24 kills. The same fighters fire approximately 89,000 rounds of 20mm ammunition from gun pods, achieving 2 confirmed gun kills. 1 kill per 77 missiles versus 1 kill per 44,500 rounds. The efficiency gap reflects Top Gun training integration. Pilots learn optimal missile employment geometry rather than desperation gun passes. The F-8's combat record provides the empirical foundation, even as the public narrative continues celebrating last gunfighter mythology. The F-8 Crusader retires from active carrier service by 1976, replaced by F-4 Phantoms and incoming F-14 Tomcats. Only 1,219 Crusaders are built compared to 5,195 Phantoms. Yet the F-8's 18-to-3 kill ratio and Sidewinder effectiveness data shape next-generation U.S. fighter design. The F-14 Tomcat, entering service in 1974, mounts an internal M61 Vulcan cannon and receives doctrine mandating gun proficiency, but operational emphasis remains on AIM-54 Phoenix and AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles. The gun satisfies institutional requirements, while combat planning prioritizes missiles. The F-15 Eagle, designed for the Air Force but influenced by Navy lessons, carries internal M61 cannon and prioritizes air combat maneuvering training derived from Top Gun concepts. The F-16 Fighting Falcon mounts a 20mm M61 as co-primary weapon with Sidewinders. Every American fighter since 1972 includes an internal gun, not because the F-8 proved guns decisive, but because institutional culture demands them, regardless of combat data. The perception break forced by F-8 statistics influences training and tactics more than weapons design. VPAF records declassified in the 1990s reveal North Vietnamese assessments during Rolling Thunder. A 1967 summary from VPAF 921st Fighter Regiment Command states, F-8 aircraft present greatest threat due to pilot skill and missile employment. Their cannons are unreliable and force engagement inside minimum missile range to exploit this weakness. Post-war interviews with VPAF pilots consistently identify the F-8 as most feared American fighter not because of guns, but because of pilot quality and effective missile tactics. Senior Colonel Nguyen Van Kok, North Vietnam's leading ace with 9 confirmed kills, states in a 1995 interview, "The F-8 pilots used their missiles well. We tried to make them use guns. Their guns helped us survive." The acknowledgement from an adversary validates what gun camera footage documents. The last gunfighter nickname misrepresents the F-8's actual combat performance. The Variable Incidence Wing, designed by John Russell in 1952 to solve carrier landing challenges, becomes the F-8's true combat advantage. Russell comments in a 1988 interview, "We built that wing for deck visibility and landing safety. That it helped pilots track targets and maintain energy in dogfights was unintended but welcome." The feature's effectiveness demonstrates a principle. Practical engineering solutions produce secondary benefits exceeding primary purpose. The wing helps F-8 pilots position for Sidewinder shots, not gun passes. The Colt Mark 12 cannons, developed in 1949, represent proven technology that proves inadequate under combat G-loads. Reliability reports from 1965 to 68 show guns achieve 36% successful firing rate when selected, compared to 16% Sidewinder probability of kill per launch, but pilots fire guns 143 times and Sidewinders 2,347 times because missiles work often enough to trust. Fleet maintenance officers note Sidewinder systems require specialized support and longer reload times than guns. But the tactical advantage reliable weapons that kill MiGs outweighs logistical burden. The perception break's final proof arrives in the 5 years after Top Gun's establishment. Navy fighters, trained in missile employment based on F-8 combat data, achieve kill ratios in the 1970s that surpass earlier performance by factors of 3 to 5. The improvement correlates directly with tactical emphasis on missiles and de-emphasis on guns. The gun camera footage capturing the F-8's combat record becomes iconic not for cannon strikes but for Sidewinder impacts. The mechanical whir of 16mm film spooling through camera bodies records the truth. AIM-9 smoke trails, warhead detonations, MiGs tumbling with severed control surfaces. That footage, replayed in Top Gun classrooms for decades, proves what institutions resisted. The last gunfighter earned its reputation with missiles, not guns. The nickname survives. The evidence contradicts it. The lesson transforms naval aviation anyway. The F-8 Crusader's final combat cruise ends in September 1976, when VF-191 and VF-194 retire from USS Oriskany. The jet accumulates 1,261,564 total flight hours across 1 years of service, logging more carrier landings than any other supersonic fighter of its generation. The variable incidence wing records 0 structural failures in combat, despite tens of thousands of high-G engagements. The Colt Mark 12 cannons fire over 8 million rounds in training and combat, but achieve only 2 air-to-air kills, without accompanying missile damage. The AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles fired by F-8 pilots achieve 15 kills from 2,347 launches, a modest percentage, but sufficient to establish the Crusader's combat record. Naval aviation museums across the United States preserve 47 F-8 airframes, many displaying kill markings and MiG silhouettes that rarely specify weapon type. The gun camera film from 1966 to 72 resides in National Naval Aviation Museum archives, accessible to researchers and training commands. Modern fighter pilots study the footage, analyzing merged geometry, energy trades, and weapon employment. The lessons remain relevant because air combat physics stay constant. Speed, turn radius, energy management, and reliable weapons determine outcomes regardless of technology era. Top Gun continues operation at Nas Fallon, Nevada, training Navy and Marine Corps fighter crews in tactics. The F-8 validated missile employment, visual identification, energy management. The school's curriculum still includes lectures on the F-8 Crusader, emphasizing the gap between public perception and combat reality. F-35 pilots, flying jets with internal 25mm GAU-22, cannons and advanced AIM-9X missiles, receive foundational training derived from Vietnam-era lessons. Bring every weapon, train for every range, understand when each tool applies. The perception that the F-8 succeeded because of guns never fully dies. Each generation of aviation enthusiasts must relearn the lesson from historical data. The Crusader's 18-to-3 kill ratio remains the counter-argument, a data point grounding theoretical debates. Gun camera footage provides empirical evidence. Sidewinder smoke trails appear in 83% of successful engagement films. The F-8's combat record demonstrates that doctrine must adapt to operational reality, not reverse. The perception break it forces reverberates through 50 years of fighter development, ensuring training emphasizes what works over what traditions expect. The last gunfighter nickname endures as historical irony. The jet that everyone believed proved guns still mattered, actually validated missiles instead. The F-8 Crusader's legacy lives in a truth more complex than mythology. Nicknames shape perception, but data shapes doctrine. The last gunfighter earned its kills with missiles, proving that what everyone believes matters less than what actually works. Training and weapons reliability win fights, not traditions. The gun camera footage from Vietnam documents the lesson every generation must relearn. Trust what combat proves, not what legends promise. Missiles worked, guns jammed, The F-8 showed the difference.